Hello, my name is Protik Mukhopadhyay. I'm an entrepreneur and an author. I'll be hosting the Reimagine Sales Systems podcast, where I'll be bringing some of the industry thought leaders who will be sharing their go to market strategies for their business systems.
Welcome, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Candi Bashiri from Wind River. She's the Director of Sales Business Applications, part of the Sales Ops team. And we are really excited to have her join us. Thank you, Candi, for your time.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Love to get your feedback and really excited to spend the next 30 minutes with you. So with that, can you walk us through your journey in the enterprise world? Like how did you join Wind River? What has been your background and your essentially role across different companies?
Oh, okay. This is actually an interesting story,
Awesome.
Pratik, because I started out in college actually as a film major. So my studies was media, film, TV, radio, but I focused on the management side. So the back end, not the front end, glamorous part of it. And in that sort of practice, I worked supporting sales, TV sales and film sales, all the stuff that you don't sort of see in the back end, but it's how TV shows get sold and movies get produced. So when I came into the Bay Area moving from Los Angeles, I was looking at what in sales that I could work in, and there was this startup called Wind River back then, and was looking to build a company, and I didn't know anything much about high tech, but I knew about sales and sales support, and so they hired me as a sales and marketing secretary, and because of, again, knowing sales operations, which is a little bit more transferable. And from there, the company was a startup using really spreadsheets to track orders at the very beginning. And then as the company was preparing to go public and all those things, it was growing, so they needed business systems. And I basically learned a lot of those things from the ground, applying the business process and know-how that I had, and going to classes, whether our first system was Sybase, which was just no interface. It was all very character-based UI. And then from there, going into, we purchased Oracle, getting into the enterprise ERP system. So I did all the ordering from the back end data entry all the way to the front end. But back in the day, before you had systems, you actually had a process where we had 6-part NCR paper. So for those of you, and I'm totally dating myself here, you had a piece of paper that had 6 different pages, and when you wrote on it, it copied through, and I would actually carry that to finance. The person would approve it for credit, move it on to production, who would actually create the media to be shipping out our software. But then it would go to the shipping guys, then to get invoice, and then back to us so we can put it into the license. So if you think about that physical process, it's a workflow basically to build an entire enterprise. I needed to put that on a system so that it's going to do the routing for me, and I don't have to walk down, even though it was fun to go meet people. But that's how fundamental introduction into how to get it enterprise, and then you basically large scale it, right, all the way through where you have hundreds of orders going through and multiple people doing data entry. So that's sort of my journey into how I got into working with systems in the back end, you know, and then growing it from that point forward. So hopefully that was interesting enough.
That's a very interesting journey, and love that background. And yeah, I mean, I think you've seen the real transformation because you know the processes, and end of the day, the tools that we have today are just automating it, but the tools are as good or as bad as the process and the people, right? So it's awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, right, you're building into a system the thought process that a person would go looking through, are all the fields filled in? Oh, if this is yes, then that needs to happen.
Correct.
If this is no, then, you know, so think about how you would go through something like that, and then you put that process. So that's, to me, how you build efficient and effective systems, is if a person can kind of go through that process, but you're just having the machine do it, how that person would go through to get this the task done. That's my point of view.
That's really nice to hear. Kind of moving along now, I think business and go-to-market strategies play a big role, right? And your group or solution enables that. So do you want to share a little bit about your current company's go-to-market strategy, and is it direct, channel, and basically how are you selling, and then how does your team enable them to do a better job?
So initially, when we were a startup, we were doing a lot of business via distributor because we didn't know a lot of companies out there yet. We didn't have the internal workforce, individual account managers, so to speak, to actually do that. So it started out with a lot of distributors and channels, and then we slowly took it to being more direct sales. So we started hiring people, training them. They would be the ones to talk to. And then the channel or distributors just became a smaller portion of the business as we went more direct. So today, where we are at, as we go towards digitalization of our entire business, we are going sort of, in some ways, back to those roots where we have a huge, a direct workforce. Some parts of the world we are, distributor or channel only. And so what we are doing is to make sure that the systems that we have built in-house for our direct field to use, that the same systems can be used by our channel by logging into the partner portal, for example, and being able to, let's say, create an opportunity that they are presenting to us, or anything like that. So how my team works with that is we try to build sort of what we expect our partners to give us in the information so that we can help them get processed, but not too complicated, and more of a streamlined version of what we do internally in-house for our own employees. So we are going more towards augmenting our direct channel with partners and distributors. So that's our, I guess, our go-to-market. Yeah. And right. And then of course you have other kinds of partners that augment with their own products, our products. So like third-party vendors that use us as a backbone to sell their own products as well.
Very interesting. So taking a little bit of deep dive on that specific comment. So what systems do you have to enable that, right? Like how do you enable successful go-to-market strategies? And it could be a technology stack, it could be homegrown, but love to hear some insights.
Yeah, I totally love that. Our current VP of operations calls my end of what I call sales business applications, he calls tech stack. So we have Salesforce as our front end. that we have not only the Sales Cloud, which services all of our sales, field sales folks, but we have Service Cloud as well. So all our customer support, our customers can file trouble tickets through the internet, through that, and it all feeds right into the heart of our system, which is Salesforce. And then on the back end, so from Salesforce, we do a complete interface into Oracle, which is our ERP backend, and we have some feed loop that Oracle sends us, the status of an order after we have sent over all the quotes and information, and then that data gets looped back in. And then from the Oracle backend, it feeds through all sorts of reporting systems like Avalanche and Looker for financial reporting are some of the other tools we use. And our Salesforce footprint, so to speak, we also have, it is pretty big. We use Financial Force as our services solution that helps our professional services organization create opportunities as well, and then track all of that through the projects and milestones and billing, time cards and all sorts of stuff. That's primarily our sort of tech stack. And of course we use, Microsoft Office 365 as our basis for our other business platforms. Some other tools that we use also for forecasting, for example, is we have Clary as a forecasting and revenue operations tool that help us do some predictions, as well as the Salesforce reporting capabilities that we use as well. We've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Salesforce, Clary, Oracle, Looker. Yeah, that's it. That's a lot of tech stack. Very interesting. Related to your kind of, I would say, projects or activities, like any major initiatives that you are planning in 2021, or any upgrades that you are thinking that will help you drive more value towards your business?
Yeah, definitely. So we have, so our Salesforce to Oracle interface, how we do quotes and all that was implemented back in 2013. So we've customized. Back then, there was not a lot of tools. And as anybody who have worked with Salesforce, even way back in the day, Salesforce doesn't always have all the solutions, so you always have to bring in a third-party product to help plug in, maybe have more robust features and functionality. So at that time, we did our own homegrown quoting and pricing tool. So today, we are actually in the process of implementing CPQ. Now that Salesforce has been able to acquire a company like Steelbrick, that was also one of the things that we looked at. And we did look at Aptus as well, back in the day. And we were going more towards Steelbrick for what it had and the full solution that we felt matched us better. So our initiative this year really is, and our go live is April for CPQ, and that's our sort of the biggest leap, because it is a big process change and a change in a lot of ways that we probably are going to find out sooner. And then down the line, looking again, since we are going to be expanding our channels and all that, is maybe revamp our partner portal and those kinds of enhancing, that channel, so to speak. So currently we do, as I mentioned, we use Service Cloud So we do have a customer portal, but trying to integrate that into one sort of seamless between partners and customers, kind of like, in a perfect world. That's our, the next steps of where else we want to go later in the year.
Very, very interesting. A couple of final set of questions. You've been really gracious and generous in sharing details, Candi. 2020 was a very interesting year for everybody in general. Now, you mentioned about your go-to-market strategy and selling through channels. Anything that you're changing in anticipation of COVID? We have heard from other leaders like you who are promoting more self-service, but just curious, like any decision that you are planning this year based on 2020 events for your organization, whether it's on the business side or on the process side?
Yeah, so definitely strange as it is, even though COVID was very challenging last year with all the different changes, having to go completely on Zoom and all that, we did surprisingly well. So I think that gave a signal to our executive team that, we need to ramp up this digitization of our business and the way we do things. So I think that just put an acceleration on how much more sort of online, changing our online presence, how we go about. So we've done we've made a lot of investment in sales enablement, not only tools, and I forgot that on our tech stack. We use things like Allego to train our teams, so that way they can have videos ready and queued up, when we are about to introduce a new product. And we're able to create, our product marketing team is able to create a bunch of snippets, short videos, and then other sales tools to give our field sales an advantage and a quick way to ramp up on how to learn things, since you cannot bring everybody into a classroom anymore. And, the days of, a long sort of rollout are just, it's just not feasible. You need to be fast and quick because, your competitor is there as well, trying to get on the digitization bandwagon. You got to be fast, and so you got to enable your field sales by giving them proper tools to be able to ramp up quicker. So like I said, we use Allego and other tools, SharePoint and different things to get materials out to our users pretty quick.
Yeah, I think enablement is definitely something we'll evolve, but those are really good proactive steps you're doing. Thank you for sharing that. Candi, as you know, a lot of us listeners are early in their career. They probably work in either IT or sales ops, maybe as business analysts. Any suggestions or recommendations do you have for them? Like, how did they become a director of sales business applications? Or what do you suggest they should be doing?
So as you heard my story, I did not have IT background, but I had technical aptitude. So I would suggest, look at the strengths that you have. If you are good at figuring out puzzles and process and things, then take the route of, going more into that. If you like figuring things out, you don't have to have a super technical knowledge. If you can understand, and for example, Salesforce does a good job of this when they do a lot of the training on the trailhead and things. Learn enough to understand what the technology is going to allow your users to do, and then help design that process. Now, if you're feeling more comfortable being on the technical side and are really good with programming and creating and making these tools function the way your business needs, then I would say, expand and maybe be uncomfortable and learn more about the business. Like, sit down with your users. How do you do this? And find out how you can maybe help automate that for them, or especially something that is tedious, lots of mouse clicks or things. How can you help them? Be in the shoes of the person you are trying to help or your internal customer to get an understanding and to help them. That's the best way to do it, is really just by being. That's how I learned. Sometimes there are things somebody can teach you by watching something, but a lot of times it's by doing. And I know nowadays you can't sit next to a person to watch them how they do their job, but you can Zoom with them, right? I guess, and follow through. But I think getting into the space or the head of the person you are trying to help move forward, that helps you understand what it is you're trying to solve. And I think it will make also a better connection with that person. So that way you are addressing your customers' needs much better.
That's really insightful, and hopefully people can take some feedback as they are planning their own career. Thank you,
Sure.
Candi. So with that, I would like to thank Candi for joining us in this webinar, and really excited to share this with the broader ecosystem. So thank you, Candi.
Thank you for letting me share my knowledge.
Awesome.
So with that, I would like to wrap up this podcast. Thank you all for tuning into Reimagine Enterprise Sales Systems. To listen to more exciting podcasts, please visit my website, protikm.com or protikm.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and other channels that you follow, so that you'll never miss your show.